And here we are, episode 16 with the Earth and Spirit Medicine, Ancient Healing Wisdom. And that's always a lot to say, so we're just going to call this Ancient Healing Wisdom Podcasts, okay? Because just trying to shorten it up a bit. Episode 16. And wow, first of all, I think that I owe a debt of gratitude to every single person that has listened to any one or more than one of these podcasts. And it's been coming to my attention lately as I look at the analytics behind the scenes of these podcasts as to what degree of influence there is, a growing, if you will, influence. So a lot of gratitude for that. So that says something to me. It's almost like, okay, wow, now that I have your attention, let's get to work. I imagine the majority of people who are ending up listening to these podcasts are not much different than myself or Alan. We're seeking sustainable truth. We're seeking something to be relied upon in a very, very seemingly uncertain world. How does one come to certainty? How does one come to not just a positive mental attitude, because what is that? Okay, I've got to get my thinking positive. But there's so much more than that. There's so much dialogue behind the scenes that can rob or not even spark that essence of positive mental attitude in the absolute need of utilization of that. And so let's just say that what we want to be able to access is some sort of continuum, something that never goes away, that is absolutely truth and absolutely pure and absolutely reliable, absolutely just like that. And yet it is somewhat always changing and shifting and moving. So when I think about the earth, and I think about the amount of time that I've been able to spend out in nature and with a lot of people, a lot of time by myself, spirits, other entities that I've come across, heard, seen from other dimensions that are very real. And I've come to appreciate this life force that has a rhythm that is constant, and yet even when a flash flood comes, the rhythm is constant there. Even when the sun is beating down at 120 degrees, it's a constant rhythm. When the frigid nights, when you're wishing that sun were back, that you were cursing the day before because it was too hot, perhaps. So what do you want, when, why, how, for how long, and does the thermostat really work? Get to work. Change is something we want. It's interesting. We want sustainable consistency, and yet we want change because we're not satisfied with what is. And most of the what isness is on the inside, whether you believe me or not, right? This very, very moment, most of that is on the inside. You know, it's a perspective of what's going on outside of me. I'm my environment. I do my own thinking. Okay, I do my own arrangement of utilizing my thoughts, my words, my feelings, and my actions to get specific results. But this isn't something that I had as a child. What I had as a child was the same thing that every child comes into this earth with. Okay, it's this truth detector. It goes off. It's kind of like this echo of a place we came from. You know, a spirit reminder. This, yeah, it's like maybe a tracking device, if you will. You know, so our spirit comes. We get bored. We breathe. We come out. You know, and then here we are. And then what is in this mortal world of remembering an eternal spectrum? But how, even if we do, we can't tell anybody. So we have all these adults, these other people, these just barely older than us siblings perhaps, all this stuff on the outside that is perceiving us as not knowing in most cases, not seeing us as a great god or goddess or whatever this potential is, even though we marvel in awe at the very essence of a newborn infant. But if we were to remember in that very moment that there's a responsibility and that we already knew that no matter what our age was, 5, 9, 78, 62, whatever it might be, okay, male, female, it doesn't matter, okay, but that there's something where we want to remind that newborn infant, help it remember through that process I was describing about, like the tracking device, the spirit that comes into the body, and then all of a sudden our knowing is gone, but it's not, because we have something in there that reminds us of that. You're on path, you're on target. Okay, it feels good. Feels good, okay? So we get to work on the inside, kind of what I was describing about things that I do, you know, and how I utilize that, and learning that through life, through a lot of challenges and hardship that I would never want many of my children or any of you to experience, and yet, you know, my children and you and others have experienced your own, and you probably don't want to wish that upon anyone. And so we have this human kindness like that, where in most cases we don't want others to feel the degree of pain in which that we have experienced when we have such a connection with our children in that newborn way. So if you don't have children yet, you know, that's okay. Just think about it when you look in the mirror as to your own self, and think about your parents, and think about the connectivity and what that was. You know, what did it look like, and what did it have to do with eternity? Nobody's fault, nobody to blame. That's one of the worst things we can do, is become victimized by all of what has happened, and bringing that into the present realm, expecting a better future. No, I can't. No way, no way, no way. You have to sever, in a sense, that past. It's like I just tomahawked all these shackles, okay? But it doesn't mean it releases the cataloged information, but it releases its power upon us. And finally, we can start to get to work.
Oh, the eagle.
Mistake.
Well, what I thought about was, you know, to evolve is one word that jumped to my mind. And example, what I mean by that is, last week maybe, something like that anyways, but you know, activity, you know, I have neighbors, and it felt like some activity going on, so did some prayers and was playing my flute one evening because I knew, and I walked the property with some sage and was just praying. But when I was playing my flute, I kind of stopped midway and I said out loud, Jesus Christ is here. And just thanks for coming in and helping them. And what was interesting was they have a little boy. He's been through a lot already at whatever age he's at, like 3 or 4. I told you, open heart surgery like 2 or 3 times. He's paralyzed, so doesn't have access in walking. Kind of been through the ringer at such a young age, but powerful young man. And he's just going to school. And at first it's hard for any kid. And the mom was having a hard time with it too, the separation. And so he would kind of be just crying, and I would see this during that time. And this morning, after this connection with Jesus and coming in, all of a sudden I saw him, and he was just looking at the house, and he's looking at his mom and dad, and just had this we kept on saying goodbye. But he had such a sternness, like, I'm here to change the world kind of a attitude. Like something changed in him. And it had a big impact on me because I saw it too, where it was almost kind of like this evolved way of like becoming a warrior kind of a way. Made me think a lot about the importance of what you're saying, this connecting to spirit, getting to work as parents, as adults, as I'll say, and I said it before, but sort of lead by example. But I don't want to be saying lead by example as a negative thing at all. For me, spirit never lies, and that's a good example of lead by example, so I better not be saying lies. And so when I think of parenthood and leading by example, as if I wouldn't want to tell my kid, don't ever say a lie, but I have secrets. I'd be a hypocrite. So this way of evolving and getting to work, I guess the way that maybe I saw this little boy kind of like saying goodbye with so much bravery this morning had a deep connection to me, to remind me to maybe I need to be strong too. Maybe I need to be a lot stronger than what I'm showing, or what my thoughts need to be stronger. They need to be more aligned to God and to Jesus. So just as much as Jesus maybe showed up to help them through a situation, maybe there's a lot that also had to happen with me as well. So it's definitely not just to say it's just them. That's not my point. It was just coming to the environment and calling for help and definitely getting it. So.
All right, well, we don't know what I'll say now, huh? Got like both my 6 guns out. Look, here's the thing. If I were, I'm sitting here thinking, if I had like just a few minutes to say something, the so-called elevator speech, that I could say that it would make sense to every single human on this planet, what would it be? What would I say right now? What would I say right now that every single human being, no matter what age, would be able to feel in this truth detector way through a lens of a camera, but feeling something, because spirit can transfer in that way, and making a connection of truth so that not just one truth detector is going off, but many. And so this part of evolution. So to me, in all my experiences, I found out I don't have a say about really anything outside of me, as I say. It's all the work inside. Striving to control things on the outside. I like to, so to speak, control things, but I would probably like to call it preventative maintenance, if you will. So what does it take to keep the vehicle going so that you don't have things happen that you could have prevented? Because there's a lot of things that just happen anyway that we don't have a say over. So what can we do as a preventative maintenance in our changing our filter, changing our tires, changing our oil, all these things we do. So look at it metaphorically, look at it, that symbolic way. Look at your life right now and and think, okay, when's the last time I rotated my tires? When's the last time I did a defragmentation, like on a computer? We spend time doing all these things. We take our trash out, so to speak. If we don't, it piles up. And we saw real time of that during COVID, in the sense that trash can really pile up. And then what are the secondary and the third and fourth and fifth, and what are all the results, the ripples that come from certain ways of neglect, if we call it that. And I want to talk about not on the outside aspects now of neglect, but what is the neglect of inside. And you know, when we feel neglected, or when we neglect ourselves, those are two different things. Feeling neglected comes from some sort of expectation that you thought somebody owed you something that you didn't get. Okay? And so now that might be in a real-time thing. If you were neglected, yes. Okay? Maybe you didn't. Maybe you were one of those people that were locked in a closet that we never heard about on the news. I don't know. Okay? Maybe, and hopefully it wasn't ever so bad like that. But whatever those things are, and how we look at that, and how at one point, like right now, what do we do with all of it? And how do we look at it? How do we catalog everything in our life right now in a very second to make a change? How do we just right this very second? And this is more than an elevator speech, okay? Of course. But how? When I'm not satisfied with everything that's going on in my life, I want it to be better. I can't do anything about anything on the outside except for, and Alan mentioned again about becoming a leader, or by example in that way. But it's not like I want that to be my focus. I don't want to be doing all these things, you know, because I'm hoping people are looking at me and giving me a thumbs up for, hey, thanks for everything you've done. You know, that feels good, okay? It does. But at the end of the day, you know, really what I'm striving to do the most is just be the very best person that I can be. And the place that it has been seemingly the most difficult all my life is in the walls of one's home. That's where the greatest amount of challenge and conflict and residual past of a mom and a dad, two people from two different places coming together to say, this is what's best for Johnny, this is what's best for Susie. No. So we start to have conflict, and we don't want conflict, okay? We want to get rid of all the conflict. So we have to be able to just say to our past, hey, it is what it is. And if we were neglected, okay, if others did neglect us when we're reliant upon them, well, you know, you're here right now. You made it. You survived it. You're here. Okay, look at it like that. Hey, I'm right here right now, regardless of what neglect was supposedly inflicted upon me when I supposedly may have not had a say, even as an infant or something like that, in the element of abandonment, or all these things that take place out there, okay? You're here right now. You're here right now, okay? You made it. You made it. Okay, you survived all of it. You're here. Okay, now, how do you go about not neglecting yourself? Well, you've got to displace it. You've just got to displace everything. So when you have that glass of water, and you drop an ice cube in, and the glass was already full, but you put an ice cube in and it pushes water out. Displacement. What are we going to be putting in now? How are we going to nurture? Okay, so now neglect is not in our verbiage anymore. Okay, we don't need it. Serve its purpose. Now we know we nurture ourselves. Because if you can't nurture yourself, you're downright useless in the ability to nurture to others, because at one point or another, you're going to get burned out. You're going to feel robbed. And then what good are you in that essence of service or in that way of nurture to others? So you've got to nurture yourself. I don't see any other way. So right now, today, regardless, you made it, you're here. Pat yourself on the back, feel so good about it. Just be like, oh my gosh, he's right. I'm here, I made it through everything. I made it through all that. No, it doesn't mean that you don't have a scar. No, it doesn't mean that you don't have like some brain fog from it, or that you're just like all not, crimped up or whatever, okay? But what it means is that it's a starting point. You're at number one, that's beautiful. Because you can put anything after that now. You can make it yours. You can do it by thinking certain things, speaking certain things, which create feelings. Those feelings create chemicals in our body. That creates emotional content, okay? And so when we're doing this to ourselves, what thoughts do you want to think to create the best vibrations within yourself? Playing the flute, nice vibration, okay? Playing the guitar when it's beautiful and synchronized, music, vibration, sound, the rhythm of the earth I was telling you about. What's your inner vibration?
Yeah, vibration and the people around you. It's always, gosh, when I think about that, it's, people always ask, like, Alan, who do you hang out with? I always laugh because I'm all like, well, not much. And it's interesting because call it an addiction. It would be a weird addiction to overcome, is when you have always spent your whole freaking life around people, and then all of a sudden you're trying to connect to spirit, and spirit says, are you okay with being alone for X amount of years? Talk about get to work. That's interesting. So that might be not what people expect, especially going on a spirit quest, going on any kind of trip, really, in the environment around earth and spirit medicine, school, wilderness living. What are you willing to put on the line? Because you will be tested. I know I was. Holy cow. And maybe the benefit I did have was I really never really knew anybody, so it was a little bit easier for me. It's almost like taking someone who was always popular in school or something, so the feeling of always being around people, and then all of a sudden you're asked to be alone. So I'm kind of thinking about what is it really when it is time to get to work. And when we think about that, or you're thinking about that, maybe you're thinking about, like, yeah, what is it to be really alone? And it's interesting when you do, or when I've talked to people, and then they say, well, I wasn't completely alone, but it's like, why is that it's hard for my mind to get around that. Like, why is it difficult just to go on a hike completely by yourself? And why is it like, oh, isn't it like, aren't you scared something might happen? It's weird, the excuses that come in. Kind of don't know why I'm going down that road, but I am. I guess the alone time, especially with no music, no nothing to, God, that can get real noisy. And I know you've said it many times, even previously on podcasts and stuff, is how can it be so noisy in a canyon and you're the only one in it? And it's like all that realization maybe of the outside noise, everything that you're talking about. You're trying to tomahawk all this stuff, but realizing maybe it takes practice to do that. I guess what I'm saying is, if you really want this, it might take maybe more than one time. You can't just say, okay, I'll schedule this and hopefully it fixes every little thing. To me, it doesn't work that way. It is, I've been with you for 10 years and I still find every day, it's like, hey, no, don't go down that road again. So I'm still working at it. And I'm grateful. It's always beneficial. It's powerful. But you get tested every day. And that's why I like to read the self-mastery quote, is because it reminds me that this isn't going to just all of a sudden you're going to wake up and everything's going to be perfect and fine. It's a small incremental steps and learning how to be accountable of every freaking thought that comes in my mouth, or my mind, and comes out my mouth sometimes, and it's like, oh, why did I say that again? Oh, it's because I'm choosing to be in an environment that I don't want to be in anymore, so I have to, am I doing something wrong? No, don't think that way. Well, how is it? Are you thinking about, what's one word I'm missing right now? Oh, faith, right. Okay, remember, faith. Okay, forever anticipating inspiration, truth, happiness. I've been on that repeat cycle for 10 years, but I know that word is containing more and more strength over time that goes by. So yeah, time to get to work, yes, but you might as well start now and don't expect it to all of a sudden. I think the first time, whatever trip or whatever you schedule to do different will be hugely impactful. I remember when I got first introduced to Spirit, man, it was radical. Crazy amount of visions and dream time. Then all of a sudden, but now maybe I'm just used to it. It seems like sometimes I'm like, man, it's not as intense, but maybe I feel as if I'm just used to it. And so I kind of get to walk in the rhythm of that. So it's not as intense as it was when I first got introduced to you. And so I hope that people listen to what I'm saying with not just having this feeling of like, oh my gosh, yeah, I did it that one time. It's so intense, but how true do we practice that fire making every day?
So out of all that, two things. One was along the lines of what are you willing to do as far as out of everything that he said there, okay? And what is it that you're willing to do? And are you really willing to do it, basically? Is it down to no matter what it takes, I'm going to do this? So oftentimes in my life, it got to that point when I just, it was like, hey, this can't go on. It can't go on anymore. So I had to make some very, very distinctive shift. And that, I think, is where, what are you going to do different so that you don't keep repeating? It's talking about the loops, the repeats, okay? And no, we don't want it to take very long. We don't have what I would call a lot of time to make these changes in our mentality across this planet right now, okay? I think that I need to come up with shortcuts, ways, methods. Somehow you need to be gifted with the ways to interpret and understand and implement. So somehow in the communication between sitting here right now with this podcast and some of them in my front room or living room here, outside, wherever, like I was saying, the spirit transcends. It goes because it's got to hit that truth detector, okay? And then what is your displacement? Well, this is the other thing, okay? The second thing that I think that was good about what he's saying is this thing about scheduling it. I was kind of like, scheduling what? Scheduling what, okay? And then he said something about his spirit quest, okay? Now, didn't say it in this way, but, okay, if you're going to put some skin in the game, all right, he put some skin in the game. He took out $1,600 out of his 401k and I took him on a spirit quest. Took him out there, blindfolded him at night, told him how to try to find camp, all these things, putting him in cold freezing water in November, and all these different things. Why? Because it just like shocks you. We got to bring it back, snap to it. Okay, it's pretty intense. We need to just crack through it like that, that severing thing, okay? So, what are you willing to put into the game? Now, I'm not saying that you need to come and experience any of my services, okay? I'm not saying that whatsoever. But I know this. I know that if you choose to do that is a good thing for you, okay? That is a good thing because I will give everything as I do in the aspect of what information is going on with the audience and with I am forthright with in this moment in time. And he's been out when there has been others more than himself as well. So he can see how Spirit wants me to tap into the dialogue or the rhythm of the group to bring the rhythm of the group to the rhythm of Earth. Okay. So what are you going to put in? Well, you can put in a lot of things, okay? You got to put some skin in the game. Displacement. What is your ice cube into here already? I can't take any more full glass of water. Because you just keep putting in these good ice cubes, come out on a spirit quest, go on survival essentials, go somewhere else, go out by yourself. And, I don't think I see a lot of people going out in nature because they post it. That's how I see it. I thought I saw a lot of people getting out, like up Mapleton Canyon, but on social media when I'm on there, and, I'm glad we're getting out. But the part here that I want to emphasize, one more thing, kind of summary of what Alan was talking about and this displacement part is because when I say this about the spirit quest that is very personal and powerful, okay, it's when all you can hear are the sounds of nature and your own thoughts. And what seems the most familiar in that moment? What seems the most dominant? Are they connected together? Not initially. When you get out there, it takes a moment, okay? It takes a moment. It takes a moment to take your existing thought patterns and just kind of let nature, through some guided aspects that I introduce and offer, to assist you in connecting to Mother Earth and Father Spirit, so that you can connect to yourself in a way that perhaps you've never had a chance to. Even knew you could, maybe. So, I've seen this firsthand. I've been out with medical professionals, psychological professionals, been out with youth, parents, CEOs, all kinds of breeds of people. But when you strip away a name tag, when you strip away a uniform, when you strip away a necktie, when you strip away a title, when you strip it all away, and all you have are your own thoughts and the sounds of nature at your forefront. Are you willing to see it through? What's on the other side of that? Do you want to tell them? What's on the other side when you let your thoughts and nature sounds come together?
Absolute peace, peace of mind for me. Family on the other side come through. Ancestors, or stone people. It's truth. So if people don't know, I say the stone people, that was on my spirit quest, and the one thing that they asked of me was to help. That was the most powerful message. We need your help. That's what they said. We need your help. We need you to help share this message where we need you. And it's like, I'm not anyone special. I think the message was to relay to everyone listening. They need you. They need all of us. And I do agree that it has to be a lot faster than, okay, here's day one, we'll see you in 10 years. I don't think it's like that. So, and especially the more that we get to understand this, we can share this with the children. I think children pick it up almost immediately because they already are there. And so it's a very important. Again, I understand that there's so many other programs and things like that out there too, but I think there's a reason why you're listening to the podcast, and if there's a reason, it's because you are questing, and I think you're questing programs. I think that's what you're really here looking for, besides the obvious message of what we talk about here about spirit. But I think spirit is also nudging you even more, so I'll be the one to say I think that people listening should take a look at the website and look at the offerings. And this isn't some sales pitch. This is just speaking from my heart. And this is maybe even me poking and prodding at certain people. So if you want to get mad at someone, be mad at me. So, but yeah, that was the greatest thing about continuing to, and I'll say implement the earth and spirit medicine ways, because it helped me connect more and more with my family on the other side, my grandfather, my dear aunt, my grandmother, everybody, and even ancestors that I had no idea. It just helped me understand, and they're the ones who give me truth and the direction I should go. So the greatest thing about call it spirit quest, call it anything you want. It is the silences and the go get in the water, go getting this and that and the other. It just helped clear the wheat field so it wasn't full of debris and noise, unnecessary noise. It was just quiet, so I got to hear truth.
Truth. That's the ice cube. You have a full cup of water. You want truth. What we're displacing, okay? We're displacing all that was there that for some reason hasn't felt. Like that has been all nurturing, learning how to nurture yourself. Learning how to understand there's some things that you can do to really say, hey, I'm going to put more into this than I ever have before, one way or another. I'm going to give it everything that I have plus. I'll find it. And then to be able to make it meaningful and find things outside of yourself in nature formats that put you into the environment that is the most conducive for what we're talking about. And also to keep in mind that the truth detector, okay, the more ice cubes, the more truth that you're putting in there and getting rid of all the other, okay, at one point it settles. And it's not like you've arrived anywhere. It's just that then you've learned that preventative maintenance. And you've gotten better at it. And we're trying to reduce the amount of time, the amount of pain, the amount of training and experiences to have your spirit self say, I remember right now, let's just get on with this, mortal self. See, that's the 10-year time frame that we don't want you to have to go through. We want you to get it now. Hey, spirit self says to mortal self, let's get on with it. Displace with truth. Put truth in every way, feel it. Okay, so how do I feel it? It's very pleasant, it's very warm, it's very calm. Sometimes it feels like a piercing, like almost like a taking away my breath, but in like this, not a painful way, but like this igniting love that's like almost painful, but it's not. It's at different degrees, at different experiences as to what is felt. And then sometimes when we need to make decisions, and we make them not knowing if we're making the right decision, but we're going to put everything into it because we're taking it all from the basis of truth to make that decision. Everything will come to back you up. All the family on the other side, spirit side, all the ancestors, the God force, all the material things that you need will come to support this, to come to back you up. Choose truth. Put it in very strongly. Because at the end of the day, when we all take off our uniforms and titles and sit around the fire together, we kind of are just the same. And everybody feels that truth. And that's like when I remember reading on where in scripture I read, and where two or more are gathered in my name, there shall I be also, when Christ was speaking. And that's the element of truth, the element of warmth, if you look at it like that. So let that be in your heart, let that be in your family, let that be in your home, let that be in your workplace, let that be everywhere you go, let you be that. That way it shall be. All right, that's episode 16.